Hey guys, Danny here, hope you're all doing well. Today we are looking at a drone which is the Eachine E520S Pro. Little bit of a mouthful, they don't make these names very memorable, they seem to get more and more complicated with each release. This product was sent to me for review, and as always, if you'd like to pick it up, you can find a link down below. Now, I wanted to review this drone as it's been a while since I reviewed any, I would say, more budget friendly drones, and that is how I initially grew my channel. So I thought I would take another look at this end of the market and see if there's been much improvement. What I would say to keep you sticking around for the rest of the video is if you are thinking of picking up this drone, my experience was quite bad overall, so you're going to want to check out how it performed for me at least, and maybe check out some other reviews to see if it performs any better. There are a few different versions available of this drone. I have the 5G 4K version. Now, as always, be suspicious of 4K drones on a budget. They often say they're 4K, and what they normally mean is they're able to take pictures with a resolution of 4K, not actual video, and that is the case for this one as well. When I initially handled the drone, I was quite impressed with its fit and finish. For its price, I thought it was acceptable or slightly above average for the materials used. Although it is fully plastic, they do have a nice soft finish in most areas of the product, and there is also quite a few lights on this that I don't have great footage for, but there's some on the bottom and an LED on the top to indicate when the drone is powered on. Also, you see we have our camera on the front, which can be adjusted remotely using the controller, and I was quite surprised to find there's no micro SD on this drone, which was really surprising considering this is advertised at 4K. So you're going to be fully reliant on your Wi-Fi feed, as having a micro SD removes that problem because you're storing the video that's coming directly from the drone, not over a Wi-Fi signal that can be affected by interference and give you bad quality video. So I was quite disappointed to see that. You also noticed that I was having trouble removing the battery, as this uses a really bad system where you have to dig your fingernail in and push a latch down to pull the battery out, which I'm really not a fan of. The controller is what you've come to expect if you've used a lot of other Eachine products or even other budget drones. It's a very common controller that I often see used, and I've used many times before. It's okay, it does the job. The phone holders built in is decent and relatively sturdy. Occasionally I've had my phone pop out when using this controller, but for the most part it seems to do the job fine. I would like something a little bit higher quality, as this one's been around for a long time and I do think it could have used a few tweaks to improve it, and it does take 4 AAA batteries. Another reason I wanted to review this product was because of how light this drone is, and this will probably be the focus of my channel moving forwards when it comes to reviewing drones. I don't really have as much interest reviewing larger ones, as there's much more restrictions and I think they will become less popular, but let me know what you think below in regards to that. So you'll see without the battery and with it, it comes in at a very light weight, so depending on regulations of your country, this may be more suited to you. For this part of the flight test, I've had to remove most of the audio from my action camera, as there was too much wind noise for you to even actually hear the drone anyway, but I'll see if there's some sections later on where I can include some audio of the drone flying around so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. As always, it's important to make sure that you calibrate your drone before taking off. Most should force you or warn you to do this, some don't, but always do this as it will help with the accuracy of your GPS and compass. Pairing the drone with my smartphone and the controller was a very simple, straightforward process. I didn't have any issues there, which can sometimes be a bit of a faff with some drones, also depending on how good the instructions are that comes with it. I often find you can see how reliable a drone is going to be even by the first few seconds of taking it off and letting it hover. Now you'll see with this one here, I'm having to constantly adjust the altitude, as for some reason it keeps lowering to the ground. Sometimes it remains steady and other times it just seemed completely erratic. So I'm going through the settings here, just checking there's some really strange setting that I'm missing. There is a gravity mode which I switched on and off later on, and that didn't seem to make any difference. But when taking my hands off of the control, at times it felt a little bit like the drone had a life of its own, and it did become rather annoying quite quickly. There were two really strange issues that I were encountering with this drone. One is, as I said from the start, it seemed to have a problem holding its altitude. In particular, it seemed to struggle the most when I moved the drone. Often when I tried to change its position, the altitude also dramatically lowered. Even at times it almost hit the ground completely, which was very strange, as you'll see here, and it then bounces back up again. And the other issue I had was the controls seemed very erratic at times, sometimes not even following my control input and veering slightly in the opposite direction. Next up, I decided to do a short range test. I normally take smaller drones about 100 to 200 meters away from me just to see how the Wi-Fi feed holds up and also their control input at that distance. Again, I was having issues with the altitude rapidly changing when I was trying to change the direction of the drone, which just seemed really strange. And then you will see I have the distance at the top left in the app feed, so you can see at this point it suddenly loses connection. So I take my hands off of the control and I initiate the return to home using the app. So we didn't even get that far away from us when there was issues with the Wi-Fi feed, which is quite disappointing. At only a distance of roughly 25 meters, this is far short of the advertised minimum 150 meters using the 5G version, which is what I have here. So I'm hoping that this is a faulty drone, or just in general this drone has some sort of issue, because so far it's been pretty horrendous to use and quite frustrating. Actually doing this review I didn't have much fun at all, because I just seem to have so many different issues, having problems with this drone. It'd be very hard for me to recommend to anyone unless you can get it for a very cheap price, or perhaps you watch some other reviews and people have a better experience than I do. Unfortunately, things don't get much better when we talk about controlling the camera, as when using the app, for example, adjusting the camera up and down requires you to constantly tap the up or down button to adjust the angle of the camera. You can't simply hold the button, so you can see here I'm spamming the button to get the camera to lower. It just seems really unintuitive, and I have no idea why it would be like this. Maybe there's some sort of setting I'm unaware of that you can change, but I couldn't find anything in the settings to adjust this, and on the controller it didn't seem to work any better either. On a very small plus side, the drone did return pretty close to where I took off from and didn't have any issues with the return to home function, which I used several times in several different tests. That in particular seemed pretty solid. Here's where things get very interesting and you may be surprised. The drones Follow Me and Orbital mode both worked very well for me, which is often a weak point for even more expensive drones that I've tested, and I've had a lot of people report the same issues to me. Now this can of course be dependent on your smartphone's GPS and some other factors as well. You have to take my word for it, because in of course the one clip I'm actually recording this feature, it didn't work, but several other times it tracked me really well, and I was quite surprised the accuracy that it was able to do so with. I want to mention two things before we move on to the camera. The first one being, you may notice on the Wi-Fi feed there is a green landing icon which is kind of illuminated. I clicked on this several times because I wondered if this had somehow had some sort of problem and the drone was trying to land, and this is why I was having trouble with the altitude. But upon clicking this button, it simply asked, did I want to land the drone? I pressed no and it stayed green, so I'm not sure if that is some sort of issue either. But anyway, let's move on to the next point, and that is the battery life. I can't give you a definitive answer on the battery life, as when I got to about 30%, the drone just constantly kept trying to land itself, and I have no idea why, because it would then let me take off again, but then within a few seconds it would try and land, but I wasn't getting a battery warning, so I can't give you a definitive time on how long this drone's battery life is. But this problem started around 9 to 10 minutes, so I can only assume that maybe it was running out of battery and it wasn't reporting properly back to the app or the controller, or there was some sort of other strange issue that I'm not aware of. Last but not least, let's take a look at some footage from the camera, and as I expected, because it's not saving to the micro SD, the quality is pretty poor. Obviously the camera could be poor quality too, but I've got no way of telling, because your only option is to save the clips to your phone using the app, and they're simply just recording the Wi-Fi feed, so you're fully reliant on the quality of your signal that you're receiving from that feed, and hopefully not have any interference that could affect that. I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. So my final thoughts for this product are of course not very good. As you will see, my overall experience has been pretty bad. I would not recommend picking up this product before at least checking out some other reviews first to see if anyone has a similar experience to me, as it's definitely possible my model could be faulty or have some sort of other issue. As we wrap up this video, I also want to make something else pretty clear due to some comments that I received recently on some of my reviews, albeit a very small amount of comments, and that is that this is not a entertainment focused channel. This channel is based on honest reviews and hopefully balanced reviews. So if you're coming to this channel expecting all reviews to be positive and to show every product in a positive light, you're not in the right place. I always try to highlight the positives and negatives of a product and let you make the decision on whether you think it's good or not. I'm not here to tell you if you should definitely buy a product or if you shouldn't, but hopefully give you a good indication on my overall experience I had and help you decide if something is worth spending your hard-earned cash or not. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one. And of course, I will see you in the next one.